Welcome to Face to Face. Thank you for joining us today for our session on Condom Availability Program. We have with us today Booker, Sarah, and Candice. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I know we have a couple more people with us today just to make sure that we have the whole crew here. If you guys want to take a moment to introduce yourself before we get started, so our wonderful people can know who you are.
Great. Hi, I'm Booker Marshall. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm the LGBTQ plus and sexual health program manager in the Office of Student Health and Wellness at CPS. I'm here representing CPS side of things, and I'll hand it over to Candice to introduce.
Hello, everyone. I'm Candice Robinson, and I'm medical director for the maternal, infant, adult, child, and adolescent health program here at the Chicago Department of Public Health. And Sarah.
Hi, everyone. Sarah Parkham. I am Program Director of Adolescent Sexual Health here at the Chicago Department of Public Health. I work with Dr. Robinson here in the Maternal, Infant, Child, and Adolescent Health Bureau. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. I will stop sharing now and we'll let you all get started.
All right, so I believe we're starting with the presentation. So give me a moment and I will pull that up.
Yes.
Okay. Can we see that? Can we get a thumbs up? I see some nodding and some thumbs up. Great, thank you. So I think kind of at the beginning here, there was just some individual reflection activity here. And this is not meant to be written in the chat or anything, but just have everybody read these questions and just kind of individually reflect on these questions for your own experience on this topic. So I'll just leave that there for a couple seconds so that everyone can take a look and think internally. Again, you don't have to write anything in the chat. You don't have to say anything out loud. Just reflect on these questions internally. All right, so we'll just go ahead and get started. So we'll talk a little bit about the Condom Availability Program here at the CPS program. So in December of 2020, the CPS sexual health education policy was updated to include a required condom availability program. The policy section on the condom availability program reads, schools that teach 5th grade and up must maintain a condom availability program. CPS provides guidance regarding the notification to parents and access to condoms by approved school representatives. Condoms are provided at no cost by the Chicago Department of Public Health in an ongoing effort to mitigate the spread of sexually transmitted diseases, including HIV infection and unintended pregnancy among CPS students. So why 5th grade? Under the CPS sexual health education curriculum, this is when students start to learn about sexually transmitted diseases, also called sexually transmitted infections or STIs, you may hear it referred to as. And during these lessons, students learn about ways to protect themselves against STIs, including condoms and abstinence. So that's why 5th grade. Now, it's important to note that CPS has had a condom availability program since 2013. But the 2020 policy made some significant changes to that policy compared with the 2013 policy. In the previous policy, condoms could be made available in schools, but this was up to the principal to decide. Now in the current policy, it is required that all schools serving students in K through 12 make condoms available. In both the previous and current policy, condoms are provided for free from the Chicago Department of Public Health. And I think it's important to note that in the 2013 policy, there was unequal access to condoms for students across the district. So now with the current policy, all schools serving grades 5 through 12 received a shipment of condoms in early September that must be made available to students. And so therefore, all the schools have it in the 2020 policy versus there being principal discretion in the 2013 policy. So what does the policy actually mean for your student? For the 2020-2022 condom availability program should be maintained. So this means that condoms are provided to schools serving grades 5 through 12 for free from the Chicago Department of Public Health. Schools receive condoms in early September, and then schools will decide where and how to make them available. Schools receive detailed guidance about making condoms available by school setting. So there's some information for schools serving 5th grade and up and schools serving other grades. And the details of condom availability will be different slightly at each school. So while they'll be available, exactly where they're placed may vary by school. It's important to keep in mind that schools will be making condoms available to any student who would like to freely take them. However, condoms will not be directly distributed to students by school staff. So school staff are not instructed to pass condoms out to their entire class or to offer them to select students. That is not in the policy. Instead, condoms should just be made available in the same way free menstrual hygiene products are available in bathrooms for students who may need them. But again, the location of those condoms may differ slightly by school.
Candace, can we just slow down just a little bit for the interpreter? Thanks.
Yes, absolutely. So next, we'll do a short activity just to kind of talk about some of the myths and facts around condom availability programs. So question for everyone, myth or fact, and think about these and then we'll share the answers. Making condoms available in schools will make young people more likely to have sex at an earlier age. And that is actually a myth. Research has shown that having condoms available in schools does not increase sexual activity among students. Instead, it increases condom use and decreases rates of sexually transmitted infections among those who are already sexually active. Next one. 5th through 8th grade students are not yet sexually active, so they don't need access to condoms. And it's a myth. While most 5th through 8th grade students are not yet sexually active, in 2019, 11% of CPS middle schoolers reported being sexually active, and only 58% of those students had used a condom the last time they had sexual intercourse. Next one. Sexually transmitted infections and unintended pregnancy rates in Chicago are comparable to the rest of the country. And that's a myth. In 2019, Cook County ranked number 2 in the nation for the number of reported cases of chlamydia and gonorrhea among people of all ages. And high school aged youth in Chicago face disproportionately high rates of STIs and unintended pregnancies. Teen birth rates have decreased in recent years, but Chicago's rates remain higher than both the state and the national average. Next one, myth or fact. There is no age restriction on purchasing condoms in the state of Illinois. And that's a fact. Legally, anyone of any age can purchase condoms from a store or access them for free from the health department. However, CPS only makes condoms available to students in grades 5 and up. Next one. If students need condoms, they can easily get them from stores or other sources. And this one's a myth as well. So some students cannot afford to purchase condoms from stores, and others lack the confidence to do so, or may face other barriers to purchasing condoms. Increased access to free condoms promotes condom use amongst young people. So a little bit more about the Condom Availability Program. So what is the Condom Availability Program? Let's review what the program is based upon the updated CPS Sexual Health Education Policy. All schools, including district-run and charter schools serving grades 5 through 12, must make condoms available, but again, will not directly distribute condoms to students. And condoms are provided at no cost from the Chicago Department of Public Health. Why is it important to make condoms available in schools? The purpose of this program is to address high rates of sexually transmitted infections and unintended pregnancies among young people. Teens and young adults account for a majority of the new reported cases of chlamydia, or 77% of them, and gonorrhea, or 67% of them, in Chicago. And in addition, teens and young adults account for over 40% of reported new cases of HIV and syphilis. And as mentioned earlier, while the teen birth rates have been declining in recent years, Chicago's rates remain higher than both the state of Illinois and the national rates for teen births. So why should condoms be made available beginning in 5th grade? Again, condom availability beginning in 5th grade is in line with the CPS Sexual Health Education curriculum, which is developmentally appropriate and aligns to the national sexuality education standards. In addition, data from the Chicago Youth Risk Behavior Survey shows that over 1 in 10 CPS students, 11% in grades 6 through 8, reported ever having had sexual intercourse. And again, of those who were sexually active, only 58% had used a condom the last time they had sexual intercourse, which means 42% of students had not used a condom. Therefore, there may be, middle school students who may need access to this important resource. It's also important to consider that making condoms available in schools is not only for the students who are already sexually active. Condom availability starting in the 5th grade can help all young people feel more comfortable about accessing condoms when they need them and talking to partners about the use of condoms. Plus, it normalizes the idea of condom use now and in the future, when they may be ready to engage in sexual activity. Additionally, we want to emphasize that research has found that condom availability in schools does not increase sexual activity among students, but it does increase condom use and decrease rates of STIs among those students who are already sexually active. So it helps those students who are already engaged in sexual activity to make the choice to use a condom, but it does not encourage students to become sexually active. And then finally, a note on how condoms will be made available. So as mentioned earlier, the Condom Availability Program will look different in every school. We know that all schools have different building layouts and different school cultures. So we're not requiring all schools to design this program the same way. However, there are some suggestions for the schools on where the condoms should be located. So in general, they should be kept somewhere semi-private, so the students don't feel on display when accessing the condoms, but also in a high enough traffic location for the students to find them easily. It's also suggested that they are near a trusted adult space, for example, outside the school counselor's office, and then they should be in an unlocked location, openly displayed, for example, in a bowl or basket or a condom dispensers. And students should not be required to sign out or justify reasons for taking condoms. So for additional resources for parents, and I think we'll have some resources also placed into the chat if they haven't already started being placed in the chat, but we have flyers about Condom Availability Program for high school and middle school parents, and those are available in all CPS languages. There's the ACLU's Minors Right to Confidential Healthcare in Illinois guide. The CPS Sexual Health Education website is also another resource, and there you can find the CPS Sexual Health Education Policy Implementation Guidance, and then new resources from response for teens about talking to your teen about sexuality and relationships available in the languages listed here on this slide. The CPS Office of Student Health and Wellness is also available for questions regarding this program, and their information is here on this slide. And then there are a few references for some of the studies and survey data that were cited in this presentation. And so that's the end of this portion, the formal presentation, and then we'll turn it over to, I believe the CPS team has a couple of additional things as well.
So in the chat, Marissa is posting a few resources that may be helpful for those of you in the session today, including a parent caregiver facing resource about communicating with teens about sexuality and healthy relationships. There's a flyer for high school parents and a flyer for middle school parents. And yeah, if anyone has any questions about the Condom Availability Program, now is your time to ask those questions. You may type your question in the chat, or you can come off mute and ask the question verbally.
I have a question. I was wondering, is there any way schools can request a condom dispenser for their school? We don't have no money for that. And you know, all I can see is I put it outside of my door. I'm the school Hi, everybody. I should introduce myself. I'm the school counselor at Wentworth. When you do it, look at Jesus. Okay, so it kind of reminded me of my college days. I was the RA that had all the condoms in a Kool-Aid thing in my bathroom, so they were able to get them. And of course, freshmen would take them and make balloons out of them. And yeah, no. So we don't want that to happen or have a plumbing problem at our school. So if anybody can give us a free dispenser, that would be amazing. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Yes, we can help you source a condom dispenser if you'd like. Actually, just email. You can email right now, oshw@cps.edu, and we'll route it to me and Marissa DePaulo, and we'll figure that out for you.
And for free, right? Because that's the key word, free.
Yeah, we'll figure out how to pay for it.
Oh my God, thank you. Thank you.
Great. Does anyone else have any more questions right now that we have these wonderful people here with us today to answer them for us? Please do not be shy. We have the chat open. You can ask your question there, or you can also unmute and ask it out loud.
Hello, this is Anita Caballero. Asking a question. What about parents' consent? You do not need a parent's consent for something like this?
So, go ahead, Booker.
I mean, if you want to answer it, you can. I will take my shot here. So The short answer is for the Condom Availability Program, no, it is district policy. It was passed in December by the Board of Education. Condoms are being made available in schools serving grades 5 and up. Now, with sexual health education, the curriculum, yes, parents can opt out their children from sexual health education. So that is your legal right in the state of Illinois. But as far as the condom availability in the school, that exists for all students, and there is no opting out of that program. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Wayne Wallace. I'm a school nurse here at CICS Prairie Distinctive School, Charter School of CPS. Good afternoon. This is a first for us. It came about because Ames is our sister school, and of course they got middle school and high school. So this is how all this came about. I'm comfortable with it, with passing out condoms. My question is, what do the nurse, has to be like a check off to ensure that the student actually knows what this is for, of course, how it is used, and so that it will be documented that the nurse had this chat with them and it's a check off, and then the student can sign off, or what is that we do?
That is a really great question. Thank you so much for coming to this today. For our program at CPS, there is actually no sort of sign off. So what we want is just for condoms to be made available for free without any additional barriers. There are some other school districts in the nation that do have something like what you're saying, where a student would have to like speak to the person, whether that's the nurse or some other staff member, in order to have some kind of like individualized education session. We opted not to go that route, in part because it does create another barrier. And as you know, in many of our schools, nurses are not there every day. And there's just limited staff capacity to support that type of oversight. Now, if a student comes to you or another colleague with questions, like absolutely, please answer those questions, And the other thing I'd suggest is finding out who at your school is certified to teach sexual health education, or since they're a charter, they're technically not required to follow CPS curriculum policy. So maybe finding out, is sex ed happening at all at your school? And if it's not, advocating, and we're happy, my team's happy to help in advocating for making sure that does start happening, so that students are able to have that knowledge to be able to understand what condoms are for and how to use them correctly. Does that help?
Yeah, for my school, for distinctive schools, we do follow CPS policies. I am health educator certified, and my phys ed teacher, she should be taking that also. She left and then she came back, so she should be taking that certification too. So the both of us are going to be working together in pairs, and that's how it's kind of going to be at our other distinctive campuses also. So just so you know, we do follow CPS rules and guidelines.
Great, thanks so much for sharing that. The other thing I'd recommend, a lot of schools choose to facilitate sexual health education late in the school year, like springtime. I'd recommend, in particular, because condom availability may be new at your school, to do that earlier, perhaps this fall, if at all possible. So speaking with your programmer and seeing, or whoever's in charge of scheduling that, like making sure that sex ed is moved up in the year so that students can get those questions answered before, April, which is a very common time for sex ed to happen.
So me and my phys ed teacher have already spoken about this, and we're going to start in like either first or second week of October. And we plan on incorporating the condom talk when she started the program. So I'm there to support her and all of that. So yeah, we ready.
I love it. Yeah, it sounds like you're totally ready. If you need additional support, again, feel free to reach out to OSHW@cps.edu, and it will route to my team, and we can work with you one-on-one if you have other needs.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions?
Booker, how do you suggest parents start this conversation about condom use? And maybe can you touch about, what's an appropriate age? How does that relate to sex, and how do they start this conversation, and what age do they start?
Thank you for that question, Kelly. So in the CPS sexual health education curriculum, we start discussing condoms in grade 5. So 5th grade, it is developmentally, it's scaled to be developmentally appropriate. So what that really means in practice is like keeping it simple. So like keeping it to the level, if a 5th grader is asking questions about condoms, for example, responding directly to what the question is asking and keeping it as simple as possible is really like the best way of like gauging if like how you're answering it, like not giving an excessive amount of detail. They might literally just need to know like what is this condom for, and you could answer. I mean, actually, I want to know if Emily has any good suggestions on this or examples of this. But yeah, just keeping it like very direct to what the question is. But yeah, just talking about it as, this is something we do to keep ourselves safe. It's during sex, keeping sex, the explanation of sex. Like ideally you're talking to children young, about bodies, right? So they know anatomical terms, and that's the whole point of sex ed, is that you're building year after year on that knowledge, you're reinforcing that knowledge. And then when it gets to things like what is sex, talking about penises and vaginas, that shouldn't be new. That should already have been covered. So then you're just talking about, and then you've maybe been talking about reproduction as a concept, right? I think in our curriculum, they use frogs as an example of like an animal that reproduces, and just creates babies and that kind of thing. So you're building on that knowledge so that when you get to 5th grade or, 6th grade, you're already building on that information so that it's scaled to where they're at developmentally. Yeah. Emily, do you have anything to add to that if you're in here?
The only other thing that I would add is that the way the curriculum is structured within CPS, students are learning the same content under a different lens. So for example, in 1 grade, they might be learning about condoms through the lens of communication. So that would be, how do you communicate with a partner about whether or not to use condoms? In a different grade, they might be learning about condoms through the lens of influences. So who influences you? Do your peers use condoms, and does that mean you're influenced to use a condom? Or do your peers maybe say condoms are bad and then you're not influenced to use one? And how do you identify what influences to listen to in your life? So the content itself remains pretty similar year by year, but we're teaching the students a different tool as to how to use that information that they're getting.
And if I can just add a very basic couple of examples, one thing is just, if this makes you uncomfortable and it's awkward for you as a parent, just acknowledging that, say, hey, there's something that I've been meaning to talk to you about, and this is super awkward and it makes me very uncomfortable, and I'm not really necessarily looking forward to this conversation. But if you just have that honesty and that vulnerability with your child, I think that can go a long way to break the ice. I've also heard anecdotes of people who are wait for a car ride, so that it's this kind of contained environment where you're kind of stuck together to start that conversation. And it doesn't have to be a conversation that happens all at once. You don't have to bring a PowerPoint presentation and a whole textbook worth of information. Just starting to have the conversation little by little, because it might be overwhelming and awkward for everyone. So just start having that conversation little by little, even using things like a TV show or a movie, hitting pause and saying hey, I want to talk to you about that later, just so you know, you're starting to get to be that age where we need to start having these conversations. So just bringing it in little by little, so it's not super overwhelming, can be a good place to start.
Sorry, I just want to add one more thing, Sarah. You reminded me of when thinking about these conversations with young people as well, if you are someone who falls into that category of being a bit more nervous to have these conversations, one great thing to do is also just let your young person know, like, I actually don't know a ton of information about this, so we can learn it together. That's a really great way to get the young person involved in the education as well, as learning together. And even if you do know a lot of the information, you can let them know, like, oh, I heard about this parent session, so I want to learn more together. You're going to be talking about this at school. So if it would make you more comfortable to talk about it with me first, since you're going to hear it from your teacher, we can start that conversation that way as well. So there's lots of really great options. And in the chat box, it looks like Marissa and Booker just added some more resources that we're really excited about. One is from Response Center for Teens, which is available in a few different languages. And then Lurie Children's Hospital has some great video examples of a parent talking to their young person about different topics related to sexual health.
Hi, my name is Yvette Killingsworth, and I'm a counselor at Hughes Elementary. I know condom has an expiration date on them. So are you going to study supply? Do you know when they expire? And around that time, are you going to be supplying more?
I can take that question. Yes, that luckily have a decent shelf life. So it will be a couple of years before the condoms expire. So we'll be checking in with schools periodically on their supply. You can always order more. And if you do have condoms that have expired or about to expire, if they're within like 6 months or a year, you can always reach out to us. We can come swap them out for you. We also you can use condoms that are expired for demonstration purposes. So we always put a little X on the condom itself just to signal, like, don't use this. And then you can use them for classroom demonstrations. We recommend that if you use them for classroom demonstrations, you can just demonstrate like on 2 fingers how to put on a condom. And so you never have to waste them. You know, say you accidentally leave them on the radiator or something, and they get to, or leave them in like if they get left in a hot car overnight or a very cold temperature, you can always reach out and we can swap out more. We'd never want you to be worried about the quality of what's being made available to students. So we can definitely swap them out.
I have a quick question with piggybacking on that. How often are you do we receive the condoms? Like, is it every 6 months, every year?
We're really letting the schools tell us. There will be email blasts coming in periodically from CPS just with updates on the Condom Availability Program, if there are like new resources or webinars available, and always kind of a prompt for schools to reach out to us and let us know. Since this is new, honestly, we don't know how schools are going to be going through their supply. So we'll be relying on schools to tell us, because we really won't know. Some schools are enormous and they're going to be they've already said we need more than the original amount that was shipped to them. So please over communicate. You know, more information is good. Since this is new, we're going to be learning right alongside you. So you'll get what you need. And we don't want to inundate people and then have it expire. So we're going off of, you tell us what you need.
And I just added a link in the chat to the Condom Availability Toolkit, which is intended for school-based staff. So there's a document in there that has instructions on how to reorder condoms. And there's actually just a Google form that you can fill out, and that goes to us. And we work with Sarah at the health department to get those orders replenished as needed.
I actually pulled it up. I have that on my desk. Thank you.
I also want to point out, because I'm not actually sure if it was mentioned, but the condoms in schools, you know, they're provided for free from the Chicago Department of Public Health, and they can actually also be accessed by adults in the school building. So if your families are coming in and they want access to the condoms, they can have them. Technically, staff can also have access to the condoms. So I just want to state that, because if the more people are aware of that, the more you will need to replenish your stock. So, you know, it's up to the school to really manage that, but there's no limit on how many condoms you can order in a school year. So if you're running through them, like, great, because really the goal is to let people have access to condoms. So whatever that looks like we support it, and CDPH is here to provide them for us.
So that means I'm going to need 2 dispensers, not just 1.
Perfect. Is there any more questions? Please take advantage right now that we have them with us and they are able to answer your question.
Hi, I have a question.
Yes.
It might have been answered already. I don't know because I had to use the restroom, but will the fit ed teachers in the schools be teaching these students how to use the condoms? And also, are the students obligated to accept these condoms?
Great questions, Anita. Thank you for asking those. I'm going to answer the second question first. Students we're not passing them out to students. So they're just available somewhere. If a student wants to take them, they can. So no, they're not obligated to take them at all. They can totally ignore them. It doesn't matter to us. I hope that answers the second question. The first question, every school, in many cases, in particular at the elementary school level, PE teachers are the sex educators because they teach health. In some schools, it can be the classroom teacher teaching sex ed. In pre-K, it'll be the pre-K teacher because that's obligated by their licensure. And in some cases, a counselor or a community-based organization may provide some of the instruction as well. So it really depends on the school. And I encourage you to talk to your school to see who is certified to teach and to make sure that it is happening. It is required for sex ed to happen in every school year, in every grade. But yeah, finding out when it's going to happen, who will be teaching it, that's all well within your right to ask of your specific school. And if you need assistance with that, we're happy to make that connection as well.
Okay, now I have another question. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be asking these questions, but I'm an LSC member at my school, okay? And what if we have a parent who has a complaint about, these students getting these condoms, and then it goes, as far as maybe wanting to sue the school, maybe, because, the school is passing these out to the students, and me being an LSC member, it might come to us. So how do we handle the situation there?
Great question. Thank you again. I love your questions. So there's nothing illegal about this program. If someone would like to sue the district, they're welcome to. They wouldn't sue a school directly. They would have to sue the district at large. And we've got attorneys, to handle that. But I guess like that, I wouldn't worry too much about that side of things. But in terms of certainly parent pushback or concerns around condom access, in particular at elementary schools, we're definitely anticipating that. We've had just a little bit of that so far. And I encourage you to take a look at our condom availability toolkit. You can also share it with your LSC peers. And actually, Marissa, maybe we should promote this among local school councils. That's a great idea. So thank you, Anita, for bringing that up. This is board policy now. It was passed. We did a really robust stakeholder engagement process all throughout 2020, including with parents and caregivers, principals, teachers, students, other people, community-based like experts. So it's been, and even faith leaders, actually, we engaged the faith leaders that group within CPS as well. So it's been brought to people's attention. You can definitely respond with that. And, otherwise, I think a lot of the pushback is around, just fears and some misunderstanding. So if you do have, if you need assistance in working with your community around this, my team is happy to help with that. We do have this slide deck, for example, that could be used or modified. And then we do have some resources within the toolkit, the Condom Availability Program Toolkit, that may also be helpful in kind of getting ahead of some of that pushback.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is we are not passing out the condoms to students. We're not just giving all students condoms. They are just there. And if they need them, they can take them.
Right. I understand that. That I do understand. But like I'm saying, as far as me being an LSC member, I think it would be a good idea, as like you're saying, this is something new that is going to be happening at the elementary schools. So maybe there'll be something that the principal should know and let the LSC members know about this issue that's going to be happening at the elementary schools, and maybe giving a heads up to the parents also. Letting the parents know, that this is going to be happening, and it's not an obligation to the students, that it's just something that the students would like to go and pick up, and go on from there. But I mean, we all should know that this might be an issue for some of the parents. So we know that there might be some sort of a conflict for some of the parents, that's going to have an issue with this, but thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I mean, absolutely. That's actually part of the reason we're hosting this session. But of course, I think lots of our staff are here because you all want to know about this, because you are the ones implementing this on the ground. And it's difficult to reach parents at every school for a centralized session like this. So, we could also schedule another session like this in the future. And Anita, you could potentially we can also just do one with your school if that's preferable for you, if it's something that you think would be more helpful. So you're welcome to email us, and we can work on that together if you'd like.
I wanted to say too, by me being a counselor in the elementary school, it has always really to my heart, a lot of our females, 8th grade is their last graduation because they end up pregnant. So I applaud seeing something like this, because, you tell them about it, but now it's something else that maybe to help them out to be able to go on and finish high school.
No, you're right. And I do applaud them for having this kind of a program for our young students, because it's not just 8th graders, it's also our younger children who are getting pregnant out there. So, I mean, I do applaud them, and I really appreciate having this kind of a program for our students. And like I said, me being the LSC member, I'm gonna pass this along to my principal and to my LSC members, and let them know that this is something that's going to be happening now.
Yeah, thank you both for that, for those kind words. I mean, we agree, there's no cost or stigma should not be a barrier to getting access to something like condoms that are, they can and should be made freely available for all of our community members. So, and especially our young people who face unique barriers to getting that access. So thank you for those words. And then I also want to point out, or I guess just mention to you, we have been communicating with we've communicated about the condom availability program a couple of ways. We have put it in the principal newsletters and the chief newsletters. We were reaching out to school counselors. The school nurses will get something this week. I think this on Wednesday. I think social workers have also gotten the blurb, our sex educators. So we're really just pushing this information out like in every single newsletter we can. So, but please also feel free to share with your colleagues, either in your school or also at other schools. We sent out condoms, we delivered them the second week of school. So there should be condoms there for elementary schools. We sent 250 condoms. So there's a little package, and it's probably, if they're not out somewhere, like they're probably sitting on the clerk's desk or, somewhere where the mail goes where people don't know what to do with it. So the condoms are there. And there's a little informational sheet that goes with that. But yeah, let us know if you do have questions or if your peers and colleagues have questions.
I do want to include very quickly that today's presentation had a lot of wonderful information. And if Kelly can do me the biggest favor of putting the YouTube link in the chat again. Perfect, thank you. And then this video will be made available to people who are unable to attend, people who may have questions about this. You can always direct them to our YouTube page, and they can find this wonderful information along with all of our other YouTube sessions. We are running out of time. We have a couple of minutes left. If anyone has any questions, please make sure to ask them now so we're able to get through a couple more questions.
I just have one question. So am I to understand that a letter to the parents is included in that packet that we got with the condoms Is it a letter in there that I can share with my parents? Just like Miss Anita has said, because we might get pushback from some parents. So is it a letter that is in there that I can send out to my parents?
Yes, so there's a couple of options for communicating with parents. There's not a required notification letter, so there's not like a formal letter, but we do have some language in the toolkit that you can copy paste onto school letterhead if you want to send it out like a formal letter.
Okay.
We also suggest if you're doing sexual health education in the fall, you'll have to send those notification letters for sexual health education. So you can just include information about the condom availability program in the sexual health education letter if that would be easier. So either way, or you can just put a blurb about it in like newsletters. We just have some language in the toolkit that you can copy paste depending on what works best for your school.
Okay, I got it. Mhm.
Wonderful. Do we have any more questions before we close off today's session?
I think one last great question is, since we're on the topic of parent pushback, what is something, what is the team, what would you say to a parent that is, pushing back about this program and is a little hesitant about having these readily available to students?
I think just leading with, I hear you. I know this is complicated. I know this brings up a lot of feelings, your values as a parent, your values for your family. It's so complicated. It's so tricky. And this is a policy. I'll let CPS manage that part of the question, but I think just leading with, we hear you. We know being a parent is hard. There is no playbook for this. Things come up that you're uncomfortable with. Just starting with affirming what they're coming to you with, those feelings, because this can be really tricky for people. So I think just starting off with that is a good way to lead into it.
I would also add here, I think it's really important to let parents know that they're doing a good job when we can. So just saying to the parent, thanks for coming to me with this. I just want to let you know, like, we so appreciate your discussion and being able to talk to you about this. Although your children have resources to be able to have these conversations safely at home, there are a lot of students who don't. And we need to make sure that we are providing resources to every student, and not all students within our district have the ability to speak to a safe adult and access these resources in a way that is outside of school. So because of that, we have to make them available at school to meet the needs of every student. It's not necessarily true for all parents. Their student may definitely be one who does need access to condoms, but I do think it's a good way to remind parents that not all families are like theirs, and some students do need resources at school.
Perfect. I think that was wonderfully said. I was going to ask if anyone of our wonderful presenters today wanted to add one last key point, but I think that kind of hit the nail on the head. I really appreciate you all being here with us today, Booker, Sarah, Marissa, Emily, Candace. Thank you so much for all the wonderful information that you provided today. I really, really appreciate it. Sorry for the crying in the background, everyone. I appreciate, I know the parents appreciate this information also. I think we're lucky that we're able to do these sessions right now and reach the parents who sometimes are unable to go into the school and obtain this information. So we'll make sure to put that into our YouTube channel to have that available for parents who are unable to join us. And I hope everyone has a wonderful, wonderful night. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.